the end of the day, we have to keep remembering this is a job interview. This is a job interview. This is a job interview. If any of us had showed up at a job interview hollering and screaming because we didn't like the questions that were being asked, because we weren't happy with the manner in which the process was going, because we thought the timeline was just a little bit too long, we would not get that job. We would not get that job. Now let's talk about what kind of job this is. This is one of the most important jobs in this country. It is the highest court of the land. And it is, by the way, the court in which Kavanaugh will potentially sit and make decisions about what? Women's autonomy, women's bodies, decisions that women ought to be making for themselves. And he is the person who is going to be in the position to make those decisions. So I think we cannot divorce ourselves from the fact that that is what we are watching at the end of the day. I know it's really easy to kind of get lost in the drama of it all. Did he do it? The he said, the she said. But I think we ought to all step back and look at the big picture, which is this is a man who is vying for a position on the Supreme Court of the United States for life. It is one of the most important positions in the United States government. And he is going to have, he's going to make decisions that are going to impact our futures, our children's futures.
Let's talk a bit about the utility of that prosecutor and how that clearly backfired for them when she began to hone in on a date, July 1st, on the calendar that Brett Kavanaugh provided. Apparently, she was getting a little too close. It wasn't in keeping with the direction they wanted her to go in or the politics they wanted to discuss during that hearing.
Right. Well, I think the decision to use her, I think, was an abdication of their responsibility. It is their job to sort of, question her and ask the questions. And what they did is they punted it and brought it to this sort of female prosecutor.
While it was expedient.
But I also thought it was purposeful, unnecessarily purposeful to sort of pit one woman against the other. I think when many of us were watching that on TV, you saw the split screen and you saw one woman, a prosecutor, very aggressive, asking another woman questions about something that is very difficult and very hard to talk about, the fact that she was sexually assaulted. So I thought it was laziness on their part, and I think it was just yet another example of senators not willing to do their job, which is to kind of do the hard work and ask the questions and sort of, this idea that I think it's not going to look good. Well, do the work to make it look good. Invest in asking the proper questions and making sure that you get to the bottom of this. Now, with respect to your question as to whether or not they really wanted to get to the truth, I think we all know they did not. Because if they really wanted to get to the truth, they would have subpoenaed Mark Judge, who is the person that she named as being in the room. And how rare is that, to have a sexual assault occur and you have a third person being alleged to be in the room? Typically, it is really he said, she said, only two people were there. But here, in this instance, very rare, you have a third person, and you're not going to subpoena that third person. That tells me that you don't want to know what really happened. Secondly, they didn't want the FBI to sort of reopen the investigation into his background. That also tells me that you really don't want to get to the bottom of the truth. You just want to make sure that your dude sits on the Supreme Court, and you want to do it as quickly as possible. And we know that, again, thirdly, because they didn't release any documents. We've only seen 4% of his documents. We've seen all of Sonia Sotomayor's documents when she was, nominated and went through her confirmation process. We've seen all of Elena Kagan's documents when she went through her process. So this idea that they really wanted to get to the bottom of the truth, and that's why they had this female prosecutor ask her these questions, is not accurate.
I will come back here in just a moment. I want to ask you just about the scope of this. We were talking about that at the top of the hour, what the FBI is going to be interested in, what they can or will ask of those that they talk to during the course of this. I go back to Mark Judge's letter sent yesterday that I pulled that quote from at the top. Denies allegations in Julie Swetnick's affidavit. That's the one that Michael Avenatti released to the public a few days ago. Denies knowing Julie Swetnick. Denies seeing Brett Kavanaugh spike punch. Denies engaging in gang rape. That's what he's laid out in that letter. I'm struck by what's not in that letter. What role do you see him playing here in an investigation, vis-a-vis all of these accused?
Well, I think he'll play a pivotal role. I mean, I think by making those categorical affirmative denials, now the FBI has something to work with to see if there's anything that can corroborate whether or not those denials are, in fact, accurate. And I think that that's one of the things that the FBI is going to do. They're going to talk to people. They're going to see whether or not what he says is true or not. And I think we are going to get to the bottom of this, or at least I hope so. I think we do want a Supreme Court justice to sort of take his seat or her seat in the court without that dark cloud hanging over their head that you're an alleged attempted rapist. I mean, can we have a Supreme Court justice sit without that hanging over his head, which is why I thought the manner in which this had been handled from day one was so bizarre to me. Because why would you not want someone to sit on this court with legitimacy? Like, why would you not want that? It's bizarre to me. But I hope that that's what the FBI does. Well, I think that you're going to see a lot of polling. I think you're going to find out how people are thinking about this from men and from women. And I think that you're going to see whether or not the needle is being moved as to whether or not Kavanaugh has support or whether he doesn't have support. And I think that that's one of the things that's going to come out from this, for sure.
Great to have all of you here. I appreciate it on this Saturday. Ellie